Hello, everybody, and welcome to TeacherCast, your home for professional development. Welcome to the Tech Educator Podcast. My name is Jeff Bradbury, and tonight we're going to be having that age-old discussion, Google Sites or Google Classroom. Which one should you use, or should you use them together? We, of course, have some great panelists on the show. I want to bring on the world champion Patriots fans, Mr. Josh. Today, how are you today?
I am absolutely wonderful, Jeff. How are you?
I'm doing okay, but not as good as Patriots fans today. Congratulations, my friend.
It was just an awesome game, and I don't have much else to say. It was cool, and one of those things that you would have regretted to go to sleep on or turn the channel on, and I'm glad we stuck with them and thought they always had a chance, so it made the win that much more fun to watch.
Now, Josh, I want to start off the show today by sharing that everybody can go to a certain place and vote for you. You're up for some type of award. Tell us a little bit about this honor that you're being nominated for.
Sure. A colleague of mine called me on the phone one day. It was like a Friday afternoon. It's like, hey, I'm going to nominate you for this award. Why don't you tell me just a few things that I can add to your applications? I'm like, okay. And I just said a few things, like the Google certified teacher trainer thing. And I didn't really think much of it at the time. And then COSIN, which is an organization for school networking, kind of more on the IT side of technology. They have this Next Generation Leader Award that people can nominate other people for. And when they released the 30 semifinalists, somehow I ended up on that list. So I was pretty excited even for that much. And yeah, it is something you can go and click on my face and vote for me if you think I am deserving out of the 30 to be one of the 5 finalists for that award. So yeah, that was very cool and humbling. And once again, I don't know if I'm super deserving, but really cool to at least have a colleague who thinks that highly of me to do that. So that's cool.
Well, we certainly do too. I know I went on today and voted for you, and we will try to make sure, we will definitely make sure that the links to all that stuff is in our show notes. And from the great Patriots fan to another, Miss Jennifer Judkins, how are you today? Welcome back to the show.
Excellent. Great to be here tonight.
Now, we also have some great information to share that happened in your neck of the woods. I want to bring up here a brand new, updated, refreshed, frankly, really kick butt website, the brand new teachingforward.net. Jen, congratulations. It looks beautiful.
Thank you. No, it's been a few months in the works, so I'm glad to have been able to launch it this week.
What can we expect from this website? And do I understand that you also have a new Twitter handle too?
So I just changed my Twitter handle so I don't have to keep spelling my name. So I just changed it to Teaching Forward. But yeah, the site is, I think it's a little better organized than it was before. And I have some great freebie Google cheat sheets available for people that want to subscribe. So we have some special things for subscribers, but it's, I think I've tried to put on a lot of my training resources so people can go and reuse those in their districts to maybe save them some time. And I post about every 2 weeks. So I've been able to do a lot of cleaning things up as part of moving all my content over, which has been helpful. And I think everything has a more consistent look and is easier to find and navigate through.
I will certainly tell you that your cheat sheets are amazing. I use them with my teachers, and of course, the only way to get them is to head on over to teachingforward.net and subscribe to your mailing list and get free 5 amazing Google cheat sheets that you can check out and do all that stuff. Also want to bring onto the program Mr. Sam Patterson from the great country of California. How are you today, Sam?
I'm doing well. They're hammering a lot in the background here, so I might keep this short.
Very cool. Sam, you've got a great thing coming up soon. Aren't you doing a fantastic presentation at a very nice big conference?
South by Southwest EDU, we're taking design thinking with puppets to South by Southwest. And in 2 hours, we're going to teach 80 people how to build a puppet and how to use puppets to teach elementary students the trickiest parts of design thinking.
You, my friend, are a puppet distinguished educator, and that is fantastic. But that's not all tonight. We have one more fantastic guest to be on the show. I want to bring on from the great Garden State of New Jersey, Miss Andrea. Andrea, how are you today?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me.
Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Oh, I'm a third year in technology resource teacher in Teaneck, and I taught I started this journey by teaching Spanish for the first 10 years.
Fantastic, fantastic. And tonight we're going to be talking all about the great applications in Google Apps, or G Suite as it's now known. And I wanted to ask you guys a question here. Where are we in our quest to learn and implement the new Google Sites? We've done a few shows on it. We've shown off some of the features. Josh, let me start with you. Is this something that you're using right now with your students and teachers? Have you made the switch yet?
We have started to do a lot with the new Google Sites. Early in the year, once that was something that was available in our domain, and I was right on that the second they came out with the announcement that we could sign up early access. That was like 5 seconds later. That is often emailed to my tech director, like, hey, dude, sign up for this. So we've had access since right at the beginning of the year. And very early on, there were opportunities where teachers had projects that students could choose different ways to demonstrate their learning. And one of the ways I suggested was the new Google Sites. So we had students and teachers jumping into those in the first couple months of the school year. Every new site that we create, I try and encourage people to use the new Google Sites. In fact, I'm working on a couple right now. There's one for our upcoming Spring Tech Challenge that used to be in a Weebly. And the reason I did Weebly is because it looked really nice and was pretty simple to do. And now I don't really need Weebly that much because the new Google Sites does a lot of what I'm looking for, and the Google integration is that much cleaner. So yeah, we're starting to really use it a lot, and I could definitely see, especially as we transform our own district website, I don't know if we'll use the new Google Sites for that just because of some of the limitations, but I could see more and more of our teacher sites going from the classic to the new, especially if they come up with some kind of a transition tool, which would be really helpful.
Now, Jen, you have a transition tool, which is a cheat sheet. And again, I want to just bring up, if you go over to teachingforward.net, you can check out all of Jen's great cheat sheets. But Jen, I noticed that your cheat sheets have been downloaded a lot ever since the new Google Sites came in. Where are you right now as far as working with your teachers on it? Is it something that you're recommending? Is it something that you're trying in your district? Do you find a lot of people out of your district are asking you questions? Where are you right now with the new platform?
There are a lot of teachers in our district that have moved their content over to the new sites. I had talked to teachers who were using the classic sites and let them know that they could wait for they're talking about some sort of tool that would allow teachers to move content. But I also took the time to show it to them so they could see that really to recreate what they had would take a fraction of the time that it took to create in the beginning. So many teachers said, oh, I don't want to wait to move this over. I want to change my site over now because it's just so easy to do. And it looks so much better than what they had in the classic sites. And so it's just, for folks that are familiar with tools like Weebly, where it's just a drag and drop interface, it's just so similar to that. And the way that the pictures resize and adjust for readability, all of those things are things that teachers really appreciate because they don't want to have to be a web designer. They just want to be able to have a web presence that looks professional and doesn't take hours to build. So for teachers and students alike, I think that it really delivers on that. And for those of us that build more complex sites, I think that Google will be rolling out additional features. They have a habit of launching things when they're just ready to be out of the gate and then continue to build on them. So that's my expectation for some of the features that are missing, that those of us that are a little more experienced with website design are looking for. But even as it is right now, I think it's in a great situation for teachers and students to use. I think we've had really positive feedback from teachers that have used it and students as well.
I love that you're using the term features that are missing. And, we basically right now have two different types of teachers. We have the teachers who are using classic sites and they look at these as missing features. And then you have the teachers who have never made a website, whether they be newer teachers, veteran teachers, whatever, but they don't know these features are missing. They're just starting off with this website plan for the first time. Sam, you're no stranger to creating websites, right? You've been using these in your various positions. Am I correct in that?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. Websites all the time.
And are you feeling like this is missing features, or are you feeling like, hey, it's just a brand new product? Where do you work in this realm, and what do you say when teachers come up and say, how do I make a website for my puppets?
Well, at first I say, well, let's see your puppets, because oh my God, puppets.
So Sam is having a little bit of audio difficulty back there because apparently his windows are open and he's in the middle of the area where they're constructing the new Los Angeles Coliseum for the San Diego Chargers, I believe. So let's bring this conversation over to Andrea. Andrea, when you and I met a few months or so ago, Google Sites was something new for you. Have you had a chance to give it a try, and are you able to now share those experiences with your teachers in your district?
Yes, I actually have brought it into my school district, in the middle school that I work in, and first with my technology committee, and then they've been able to share what they've learned with other teachers, and slowly but surely, our whole school will be using Google Sites, and students are now using Google Sites. Like, I teach computer applications, where we used to develop this website on Weebly at the end of the semester. And I switched over that project to Google Sites and had so much more success with it. So much easier to use for students, user-friendly, and much easier sharing capabilities.
Why is it? Why do you feel it's so much easier? What about it makes it easier?
Well, when using Weebly and they would invite collaborators, students would need an email, which the district didn't provide, so they would have to use their personal email to invite editors. And with Google Sites, that's not necessary. You don't need a link emailed to you to enter a website to collaborate on. And you can be on the same page at the same time, which is also another issue with Weebly.
Now, Jen, do you find that this is easier, or do you find that teachers are picking this up a little bit easier for them?
Without exception, every single teacher I have shown this to who had prior experience with the classic sites has been really blown away by the complete sea change that has occurred as far as the usability of it and the user friendliness of it. So, even teachers who would be very quick to tell you, hey, I'm not very good at technology, are really excited with how easy it is to design their sites very quickly. And again, that's why I have seen a lot of teachers who are just ready to start from scratch instead of trying to improve a classic site that they've spent time on, because they see how easy it is. So that's been more often that what I've been hearing. I have not had as much experience yet working with students with these. We don't have a platform for digital portfolios for older students. So I think it would, especially once we can create and share templates out on the new sites, I think that is what a lot of us would like to move to, as a way for students to, catalog their learning over time. But I'm kind of hoping that a template feature will be available in the coming months, because I think that would make that a lot simpler to do. So that's kind of where we're at.
Now, Sam, let me see if we can get you back in
Yeah,
here. You're one of those.
Jump in here quick before they get to the other part of the floor they're installing, apparently.
Go ahead.
What I've found is that it's a lot easier to set up the relationships between sites in the new Google Sites. And it's a lot simpler just to say, oh, okay, write down what you want the site to say in, this Google Doc. Let's get it edited, and then go format it. And it's very simple. There are so many more right choices to make. Like the old Google Sites, you could set up something that worked, but it always looked like old Google Sites, and it never really looked good. And if you worked really hard at it, you could make it excessively ugly. But with the new Google Sites, you have to really want to make it ugly to end up with something that doesn't look good. There's so many like automatic contrast features, etc., that just make it readable and allow you to focus on the content they're banging against.
So I want to take a moment here and share some of the examples of Google Sites. And while we're doing that, of course, we are live here on Tuesday nights at 8 o'clock, as we always are for the Tech Educator Show. We do have a very healthy audience right now. Josh, there are some people in our live audience over on TeacherCast.tv that want to get the link to help you vote for that. So if you could check that out as we're going through here. Now, I want to bring up some of the websites that we've created for my school. And, we can kind of talk our way through a few of these things. But this particular one, I know this is also an audio podcast, but this particular one we made for our counseling department, which you can see is very, very clean, easy to look. As Sam put it, you have to work hard to make these things look bad because it's just so easy to put these together. Here's an example of a 7th grade social studies teacher that not only uses Google Sites, but they also have a revolving Google Slides presentation as a way of showing off announcements and important information, dates, homework assignments, etc. And as you scroll down here, he's not only using his Google Calendar, which is pulling from Google Classroom, but he's also using various icons here to showcase different parts of his curriculum. Here is our one of our teachers who is an art teacher, and you can see she's got all of her students' artwork here using Google Sites. It looks very, very fantastic. And again, here's another website of a teacher who is using it for curricular work. This particular one's using different Google Docs and Google Calendars and stuff like that to show off the stuff. So really, really neat. And we even, again, got our preschool involved, showing off how easy this is for teachers and students to use. There really, really are so many different possibilities of doing this. I think my school district, we probably have more than 1,000, if not pushing 12 or 1,300 different Google Sites. They are absolutely fantastic to use. I wanted to bring back the concept that we were using last year on a particular show that we were talking about do you use Sites? Do you use Classroom for these various things? What do you guys think? Is it a matter of taste great or less filling, or is it a matter of taste great and less filling? Do we do both of these at the same time? Josh, what do you think? Are we using both of these together, or are they still separate things in your mind?
I think they still are separate entities that have different purposes, but because of the fact that everything in Google Classroom is hyperlinkable, there's definitely a way to marry both of them. For instance, our teachers employ Google Sites for the use of parent communication. And because of that, if they're using Google Classroom for assignments and that's all they use, there's no communication with the parents or very easily. I know you can do that kind of janky Guardian thing, which I think they still need to make easier. And there might be something in the admin panel, but that's neither here nor there. The point of the matter is that they're still posting some daily stuff out there on this Google site, and the fact that they can link to the classroom or link to specific assignments is really convenient because then it becomes a one-stop shop for students, and then it can be kind of used all across the board. And in fact, for teachers, it can be a one-stop shop too. Instead of having to go through Classroom into the class and then find the assignment, they could go use that. So definitely depends on the purpose, but I still think there's a place for Google Sites, especially to display things, just because Google Classroom is still very much a walled garden.
Andrew, what do you think on this topic? Because you're new to the whole Sites thing, but I know your teachers have been dabbling in Classroom. Where are you on this whole one, the other, or both?
I think both for sure. I mean, they serve different purposes. Classroom is for our students primarily. We use Classroom also for administrative purposes. So we have learning communities on there as well that we use with the faculty. But Sites is open to, you can make it open to the public so parents can have access to it. And then Sites can be used to create projects and units. And like he was saying, you can link them to Google Classroom. So yeah, two different purposes. I think Google Classroom is not a website. It's a learning management system.
Website. No, I was going to say I couldn't agree anymore. We talk about this ever so often on the show, but if you kind of take this flipped classroom model and you look at your life as a suitcase, and you figure that in a suitcase you have your jackets and your music and your books, you have this thing up here that's basically your daily planner. It tells you what you're doing all the time. And I kind of look at Google Sites as being that suitcase, that vehicle for all of this stuff to come in here, where your books then turn into your doc sheets and slides, and your music, of course, turns into YouTube. Your backpack, of course, the thing that holds all of this is your Google Drive, but you still have to have that daily planner. You still have to have that classroom that creates the calendar, which helps everybody learn what to do. There's so many different reasons of using this. I always go back and talk to my teachers about the fact that it's called Google Apps, not Google Classroom and Docs and Sheets and Slides and whatever. I want to throw a couple of questions just at the group here, jump in as you can, but let's say that I wanted to create a classroom blog or a classroom writing assignment that might last all throughout the year. What is the best Google tool that I can use, or Google tools, to do that? Again, if a teacher says, hey, tech coach, I want to create a student blog, what would you do and where would you direct them?
I still use Blogger. We use Blogger at our school to share best practices. I mean, this was before Sites. I don't know if I'm going to move over to Sites, but Sites doesn't have that feed that a blog has. So,
are you using that with kids, or is that just teachers that are authoring in blog?
Teachers are contributing to the blog, sharing their lessons and just their stories of different successful lessons that they've had and best practices that we share out to the community.
Anybody else?
I think one option for people would be, I mean, Blogger is a little clunky, and I think it is an option that's available, but if a teacher is trying to, I know sometimes teachers are like, I don't want 3 different things, I just want 1 thing or 2 things. So if they wanted to do it within either Classroom or Sites, I think one of the key things about a blog is that it be visible to the outside world. So I don't think having a blog in Classroom is really a blog anyway. So one of the things teachers could do is they could have Google Docs from kids embedded into a Sites page. They could do that by class period or whatever, and then students' work is visible, but it's really done through Docs and Drive, which then is limiting the number of tools that kids and teachers have to be comfortable with. So that may be an option for some people.
And if you do it that way, where you're taking the document, setting it to publish to web, and then using the embed code and putting it in something else, ultimately the student still has control over whether or not that document is visible. And this is one of the challenges with the new Google Sites, is you don't necessarily have page level control for public versus non-public. But what you were talking about, Jen, where you find another platform that you can put a Google Doc in or embed a Google Doc. Can you embed it in Google Doc and the Google Sites? You probably can.
It's even easier than that, Sam. So instead of having to worry about an embed code, they would just essentially insert, one of the insert options are different types of files from Drive. And so it embeds it where it's, it's visible in a live window, like a widget, and they can set the size of just by dragging, they can set the size of that little window into the document. So it's even easier for students and teachers.
And do they still have control over the visibility there? Like if they wanted to set it?
Yeah, so if they don't set it to anyone with the link can view, then it wouldn't work. So they have to set the visibility to public. They don't even have to publish it to the web in that way. So I think it's what's nice is it's kind of keeping them in some scores, some core skill sets, as far as the sharing permissions and understanding that. And embed code is something that, you say that to teachers and they're like, what? I don't know how to do that. So I like that they can have the, what is the look of something that's embedded without the, the complicated grabbing HTML code and worrying about how to change the size of the inserted item and stuff. So it's nice that way.
Yeah, and I want to just circle back around and really put a pin in what you were just talking about, where you're doing a insert document kind of protocol is a great way to have control over whether or not it's public. In the old Sites, as an English teacher, I had all of my kids build their own sites. And that was great because we actually had control over who could see those sites and who couldn't, just to a greater degree than we currently do in Sites. And that was, I was working with high schoolers. They were over 13. Now I'm working with students who are under 13. So with all of this, you always have to be asking, okay, who can see this, who can get to it, who can comment, and what kind of identifiers of the kids are on there right now.
Absolutely.
So let me throw a little monkey wrench in our Google conversation here. And this is kind of going around the conversation here, but Sam, in the past, you have done a demonstration with us on how to set up Blogger and how to set it up so that way your kids can have these drop downs. And Blogger, as we know, is a Google tool. It's free. It's wonderful. But there's always that question I hear of how long is Blogger going to be here? We've also done demonstrations with KidBlog and how KidBlog can set up with a teacher feature and then drop down to have all of your students. But then recently, maybe a year or so ago, KidBlog went fully paid. And the other day, there was an announcement, I don't know if you caught this, that says EduBlogs, which is a freemium type service, basically took all of their pro features and made them free. So that way a teacher and a student can now have free type of blogging experiences in the classroom. The catch to this, it's not Google based, so you can't easily import things. If I had to throw three things out at the group here and say EduBlogs, Blogger, KidBlog, or even other, because I mean today I had a nice conversation with some friends who over at Padlet, and Padlet makes a great tool that you can essentially do student blogging with. Where would you guys say the best tool is to create a blogging quote unquote experience?
The best tool is the one that your users have to learn the least and will use the most, right? There's a lot of options out there. One of the ones that you haven't mentioned is my current favorite, Seesaw, but it's not fully open in public, but you can set up a public blog on it. I have more interaction with the parents in my school community on Seesaw than anywhere. And a bunch of them follow me on Instagram, they follow me on Facebook. But their kid in pre-K can make a recording and post it on Seesaw. It's amazing.
I'm obsessed with Seesaw for early elementary students.
Mm-hmm.
I think there is nothing that compares for those younger students because of the ease in which they can sign in, Sam, and the variety of the artifacts that they can put on there and the ease of sharing at your discretion,
Jen,
whether individual. It's fabulous. Yeah. For really young student, I think that, you know, and I'm thinking, I don't know, Sam, your take on it, but to me, that's like a K-3, pre-K to 3.
We started K3, but we actually went all the way up to 6 because we couldn't figure out which of the other platforms to use. And we were just like, let's just go Seesaw, right? You know, the sixth graders don't mind that they look like an octopus or whatever. But listen to this. So the other day, we're using the third graders are using design thinking to understand how first graders play. Last week or 2 weeks ago, we had a play date. Third graders hosted games for the first graders and watched the first graders play. At the end of the time, the first graders go back to their class. And unprompted by me, the first grade teachers were like, let's Seesaw to Dr. Patterson about what it was like to play those games. And all the first graders busted out their iPad, pointed the video camera at them, talked for about a minute, what they liked in the games and what they didn't. I put all of those on a public-facing blog, gave the address to the third graders, and assigned them videos to watch and understand and take notes on. It was amazing because I was able to take video that the first graders made and essentially deliver it to my third graders with almost no work. It was such a great lesson because the first graders talked about things the third graders never would have asked them about. And it was really clear as the first graders were making these videos that there was no adult standing over their shoulder making sure they were doing it right? Like they'd be narrating and then they'd turn around and yell at the kid that just ran through their picture behind them and they just keep going. But first grade, fully self-sufficient. My kindergartners take a picture of something and then they were circling the different important pieces of it. They can do that annotated stuff. amazing. But I didn't see that post about EduBlogs. I used EduBlogs last year for everything. I think I ran all of my classes essentially for the last 3 years as a tech teacher. I was running out of EduBlogs. It was a great place to be a daily planner. The kids knew where to find it. It's really great. I could say the same thing about KidBlog when I'd used it. They were all great tools at the time for what I needed to do.
Andrea, have you tried any of these?
I have not. I'm just very curious to go in and explore them now. To be honest with you, right now I'm exploring with sites and creating a blog using Docs, and I'm loving this idea. It's working out great. I think I'm going to switch over.
Very, very cool.
Sam, I think I loved your point about, the right tool is what is going to require the least amount of, learning so that the focus can be on the learning activity as opposed to the technology. And so, for some people, that's going to be Seesaw for different age students. For us, we're really all into the Google Apps. So I love the idea of trying to make it work with the Google Apps tools that we're trying to encourage students to use. But when they're younger, I don't want them logging into their Google accounts. I mean, it's really not until 4th grade or so that we're regularly having students sign in to accounts. So younger than that, to be able to allow students with a tool like Seesaw to scan a QR code and be in without typing, to me, that's just magic. Like, like that alone, like sold me on it. And so, but for kids that are getting, are more capable of doing sign in and having more ownership of their artifacts in Google Drive, and having kids love the idea of making their own website and that level of ownership of, look, this is my place. Then I think to be able to do something that incorporates those tools in Google that we're trying to encourage kids to use is a great option for some people. My blog that I switched over was on EduBlogs. I think it's they're a great company. Their support is fantastic.
And, ultimately blogs out there or websites out there fall into a couple of different categories. And Jeff, you probably have this number on the top of your head.
14.
How much of the internet is powered by WordPress?
23 or 29. I can never remember the exact number, but it's enough to know that the second highest thing out there that's like a learning management system is like 8% or 9%. There's a huge gap between WordPress and everything else.
WordPress is a giant figure in how websites are built. And if you do something like EduBlogs, you end up teaching your kids how to use WordPress. Okay, great. Now with the new Google Sites, if you use Google Sites, you end up teaching your kids how to use a drag and drop web interface, which is really exciting. And if you use old Google Sites, you teach them what it was like to use the computer in 1993.
What are you saying?
Mean, I hand coded websites as part of my grad degree. I took an electronic books class and I made an HTML poem that had over 500 pages that were all hand coded. And I wrote most of it out longhand to make sure I got it right before I typed it in. And it looked horrible. And I can recreate that on old Google Sites really quickly. And, there was kind of a pride of, teaching the kids to work with stone before they got to work with wood. But I'm glad that we don't have to spend as much time on that tool, because here's the thing. For the last 3 years, I've been a technology teacher, but now I've moved back into an area that isn't just tech. I'm a makerspace teacher. And when I have to slow down and teach the tool, I'm always like a little frustrated. And it's my first year at the job, so I don't know what skills the kids have. And when I'm cooking along in a lesson and then suddenly it's like, oh, you don't know how to use this platform. Okay, then we'll drop the speed down by at least a quarter and start applying a lot more help with that. But suddenly you're not, doing design thinking. You're not solving the really interesting problem. You're back on the bleeping interface, right? So this goes back to the right tool is the one you have to learn the least from, or learn the least for. What's going to be the most transparent? And if you can't be transparent, the next one is, okay, which one's going to be the most useful to learn?
I love that. Josh, what do you think about all this?
I completely agree with everything everybody said. No, I think that it's a fascinating discussion and touches on so many things that are really important. Like when Sam was referring to kind of that web design aspect of this, and I know that that Andrea teaches using some web design. It's an interesting thing to think about what skills our students should have. I think that's a really good conversation in the midst of all of this. That is it important to prepare a student to use something like WordPress before they leave school? And maybe that conversation is a little too early to have at 5th grade. If they, that's still 7-8 years before they're out in the in the world beyond high school. Like, is WordPress even going to be a thing 8 years from now? So I don't know, it's very interesting. I guess I have the thought that variety is the spice of life, and I know we shouldn't change things every year, but I think maximum exposure is good, and I'd love to see a graduation as they go up. So starting with Seesaw, starting with some of these easier platforms, and then progressing to more complex, more learner-controlled things like.
Now, fun fact, there are apps. One of them is called Easy Blogger, that essentially will sit on top of your WordPress app and turn it into a Seesaw-like experience. And that Easy Blogger app has been around for 3 or 4 years. And that was one of the first spots that I saw, just a spot where a kid could take a picture and then photo and narrate over it. But some of the tools are something as simple as like Photobabble or, what have you. It's just, what do you want this blog to be doing? And, the question, as you said, Josh, the question isn't, will WordPress be around, but, can the experience of learning to use this be useful to this student, either as yet another iteration of here we learned how to do yet another thing, or you'll actually end up doing this thing in the real world. And so much of it really is, well, you learned how to do another thing, so we've learned how to do another thing. And, occasionally it's like, oh, yeah, well, it turns out that you learned photography with me and you're actually doing photography in the real world. There were 20 other people in that class and none of them have ever exposed another picture after it. But, for you, sure.
Let me throw a quick question out here as we're kind of going through here. Seesaw, is it something? I see that it's available for all platforms, but has anybody tried it on Chromebooks?
Yes, I have. Frankly, I think it works better on an iPad just because of the nature of the kinds of things that students typically will do with it. I want a first grader to be able to walk around the classroom and take a picture of the clock and circle the minute hand in one color and the hour hand in another color. And it just works better. Taking photos is so much easier on a tablet device. So actually we have just as much luck. I bought some Android tablets recently with a grant, and the teachers actually are, I'm getting even better feedback on those compared to the iPad because they're an 8-inch tablet. So they're a little smaller for little hands. So the teachers were really excited about those. And the cost would be a fraction of what we would pay for an iPad. So we're kind of trying to evaluate that as an option because Seesaw is primarily what teachers are using with our younger students. But
Will Seesaw work on an Amazon tablet?
What?
Will Seesaw work on an Amazon tablet?
It's part of Google Play Store, so would that? I don't have an Amazon.
No, Amazon's got their own.
They've got their own, so you'd have to look.
Seesaw, the Learning Journal App Store for Android. Is this?
But I think the bigger issue on a smaller, on a Chromebook is just the camera, Jeff, just trying to get the camera positioned is kind of a problem.
Right.
I use
Kindle
Seesaw.
Fire.
Hypothetically, let's say that that's all that you have in your classroom or your school district.
Yeah, so I've had students when they have that, a lot of times they're working, say, with a piece of paper, and the kids will hold the paper up to the camera and then take the picture, and then they can use the touchpad because it's not just circling. One of the features they rolled out recently was the ability to add labels, so they can just, they could just tap on and we actually have touchscreen Chromebooks, but they can just move the touchpad and insert labels on the picture that they've taken. Of course, voice recording is very easy on a Chromebook with the built-in microphone, so that works really well. I think the big thing for us is just the ease of taking pictures. But again, I've done it with a Chromebook where they position the their whatever they're holding in front of the camera and take a picture that way.
Andrea, you seem deep in thought. What are your feelings on all of this stuff as we all turn out soon and go back to our school districts? What are you thinking with all this?
I was just kind of reflecting on all the different tools that are out there. And then I started thinking, well, I think it really depends on what we're focusing on when we're using these tools. Like, what are we teaching? What do we want the learning process to be? Are we teaching them content and graphic design with typography and color theory and all those things involved when using websites or blogs or whatever? Or I think that now Google has really upped their game with providing that for us already, so we don't have to focus on those things with Explore in slides and the themes provided in sites. I think that it depends on what we focus on. And I do teach color theory and typography but that's because I teach multimedia for 8th graders. So.
And when we're looking at all of these different options, I want to circle back and ask the simple question that we started with. Do you take all of these great ed tech tools and put them onto a Google Classroom? Or do you put them onto your website? Let's go down the row and tell me what you think about the best place to store this, and maybe give me some tips on how you're justifying that answer in your own ed tech coaching position. Josh, let me start with you.
That's a false choice. I don't like having a false choice. But if I was forced to choose one of them, I like a central place where other things can go that can be easily accessed and edited and changed from year to year. And a Google Classroom is really an ephemeral thing. It's not something meant to be permanent. It exists for this class, and then when your next class comes in, you have a new thing. And yeah, you can dump all your students and load them out back in, but then you have to change all your due dates on stuff, and you may not even use the same assignments. So for me, definitely a site is just a much better warehouse for those things, and just a great public-facing tool for any teacher who wants to share what's going on in their classroom. We know how important it is to share our story, and the website can be a great way to do that. So website right here. That's what I say.
Jennifer.
Yeah, I'm with Josh. I think that when it comes to things that are collections of resources and things that you're going to go back to year and might do some tweaking but aren't changing in the same way that you are daily assignments, then I prefer to use either a website or a blog that essentially is formatted in the way that a website would be. So it's just a matter of platform preference at that point. Classroom to me is a tool for distributing work and collecting work and those types of activities. I think it works best for, so for resources, I would definitely be using a website.
And Sam, what are you thinking?
I'm thinking for resources, I would definitely use Jen's website.
That would be teachingforward.net, everybody, the brand new website.
Teachingforward.net. That's the website I would keep my resources on because I could remember where it was. I'll echo what everyone else has said. I find Google Classroom is incredibly useful on Monday morning when I can't remember what I did last week. And I'm like, 5th grade, right. That was the one where we had the conversation about, and as long as I've been smart enough to put it in Classroom during class, we're all good. But it's great because Classroom allows me to connect any Google Docs we make. I'll have the kids create a slides thing. It's there. I can find them. I can call up the work they did easier. If I had a website called, say, My Paperless Classroom, it should probably be dedicated to Google Classroom because it's really great at doing all of that. But, I don't keep my bookshelf of resources in my lesson planning book, right? The lesson planning book, which would be Google Classroom, has what we did and the addresses of everything. but all of those resources, live elsewhere because they're important to me, but they may not be as important to my kids. But if they are, I want to send them out to where they are. So they have to make that trip out into the Ethernet, get the appropriate resources, and get back alive.
So, Sam, you're worried that your students are not going to get back alive?
From the internet. Have you seen what's out there?
Oh, yes, especially today with that whole voting thing. But yes, it's a scary place.
The people.
There's
are the
bears
worst
out
part
there.
of it.
There's grizzlies.
I bring on the
bears.
bears. The bears are the least of our worries. You, as a Patriots fan, should know that.
I don't know where to go with that one. Andrea, what are your thoughts here?
I agree with everyone. Definitely sites is where to allocate resources, but I think that Google Classroom could be a great place to have a conversation with people about those resources. So I use Google Classroom with my tech committee, and we just use it as a bank to share resources with, and maybe we have, if that means scrolling all the way down to the bottom of the feed and finding something that we shared once before and moving it back up, we can use it for that. And Sites is just another essential tool that I'm really happy is available to us now.
I would certainly love to welcome anybody out there listening live over on TeacherCast.tv or in our pre-recorded formats here. Send us your Google Sites. Share with us what you got here. We had a great chat tonight, and I want to show off one of the websites that we had come in from the chat here. This is from Eileen, and she does a technology blog for her site, and this has stuff on her library news, her tech integration, different PD opportunities. She's got some Google apps here, classroom activities. Really, really neat way of using this. Some people say the word flipped classroom, which really is it's where you're going with the website ultimately, but it's not what you're looking for sometimes. But, it's a way to provide a great digital resource for your students that not only works today, but certainly works tomorrow and next year and the year after. And all you have to do is tend to it. Guys, I want to say this has been a great show. I'm glad we have a chance to kind of get in and debate some of these topics. We certainly went into directions we weren't thinking about at the beginning of the show. So really, really good stuff. I want to say thank you guys out there for watching and supporting us. Of course, there's some great ways that you can participate in the show each and every week. We love it when you find us on Twitter at TeacherCast. Leave us a voice message over at teachercast.net/voicemail. Email us over at feedback@teachercast.net, and subscribe and support the show over on iTunes and YouTube by going to teachercast.net/audio and teachercast.net/visitors. We just passed over 7,000 users, 7,000 subscribers over on YouTube, which is an amazing number. So check that out. And of course, we're here every single Tuesday night at 8 o'clock. Before we go, I want to go around the horn one more time. Andrea, where can we find you and how do we get in touch with you on your socials?
Oh, I still have my old Spanish teacher Twitter.
Sí.
Which is SRTA Berrios, Berrios, Señorita Berrios.
Nice.
My handle.
Sam, where can we find you?
I am at SAMPATUE on Twitter and mypaperlessclassroom.com.
Excellent. Josh?
You can find me at Mr. G Fact of the Day out on Twitter. Want to give one more quick shout out here. If you have not yet, text Pass It On to 22333. Our Verizon App Challenge group at the middle school is now in first place in the nation in voting, and we want to keep it going.
And one last time, the owner of the brand new, curator of the brand new, founder of the brand new teachingforward.net, Miss Jennifer Judkins. Jen, where can we find out more information about the great stuff you're doing?
So on my blog at teachingforward.net, or I'm on Twitter at teachingforward.
Excellent. And of course, one more time, thank you so much for being here and being a part of TeacherCast each and every single week. We have some great shows. Next week, we're going to be moving away from Google and moving more into the STEM background. We've got a great guest coming up to talk all about STEM education and what we can be doing. I don't know, Sam, maybe we can go beyond the hour of STEM STEM education. I don't know. We can see what we can do with all of that stuff. And certainly have some great shows coming up. Don't forget, as our show last week happened, we have Ed Change Global happening at the end of the week. Check out that and all of the other podcasts happening on the TeacherCast Educational Broadcasting Network over at teachercast.net. On behalf of everybody here on the network, my name is Jeff Bradbury, encouraging you to keep up the great work in your classrooms and continue sharing your passions with your students.